Are you looking to save time, money, and frustration in your home buying process? Hiring the right professionals and having the right ones in your corner will do exactly that. That is the key to your success. Today with me here is Pam Rivet. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to talk a little bit about what can a consumer do. They're in the market shopping for a home, and where do they even begin? What is it that they can do in order to make sure that they are going to have the smoothest process possible?
Kelly, I personally think that the most important thing for a buyer is to have a good working relationship with their agent and lender. Or I guess I should say for their agent and lender to have a good working relationship together for the buyer. I have personally seen a lot of situations where maybe there wasn't a good relationship between the agent and the lender. So there was a little conflict, or maybe it kind of drugged the process a little bit further on than what it should have because there wasn't good communication there.
So, communication is 100% the key to the consumer having a great process, like a great experience. You and I have worked together for quite some time. So much so that there was one company that you were talked about at all the sales meetings because we communicated at such a high level and we were constantly checking in on where everything was in the process, making sure that the consumer knew what was coming next, what was required of them at that time. And so it really was just very smooth. And I think there was even one company that you were with at one point in time where the manager used you and I's relationship as an example because we were doing such a great job that we just had one successful closing after another, and the consumers were giving stellar feedback on the surveys for all of that. And so they really were shining a light on this is what is really important in order to get the all around, great effect for the consumer and for all parties involved, right?
Yeah, it's the experience for you as a buyer to from start to finish, from the time that you say, I'm ready to get pre-qualified, all the way to I'm ready to work with an agent, I'm ready to look at houses. Now let's move forward. I have a contract, all the way to getting to that closing table and getting your keys. And again, I know for a lot of buyers, it's, oh, I just need a lender and I just need an agent. But again, it's that lender and that agent having a good working relationship together. That's what makes the difference. And not saying that any lender and agent couldn't have a good relationship together and still make the transaction smooth. But when you as a buyer have, whether you choose your lender first or you choose your agent first, and they say, hey, I recommend X, Y, and Z, these three people, they're giving you those recommendations for a reason. It's because they know that those are people that they have worked with and have a relationship like you and I do, that we work really well together. So when it comes to helping you on my end as the lender to be able to say, hey, Kelly, these clients need X amount in closing costs. How are you going to help them as the agent to be able to negotiate that? Or you to be able to say, hey, Pam, I talked with these clients and they really need this on the lending side of things. Can you help them with that?
And I think to elaborate a little bit more, because it's not even, in my opinion, it's not even just having that good working relationship between the agent and the lender. That's super important. It is, and it's not going to be just because I like you, right, that I'm going to send people to you. It's because my past clients have had successful transactions, enjoyed the process, felt like they knew what was happening, when it was happening. They didn't have all these surprises. Right. And it was because of that experience that I'm going to continue sending new people that I work with over to, right? Yeah. And so that is the key ingredient. Some of the other ways that a consumer can save time, money, and frustration whenever they are picking the right professional. So we know that we need a good realtor, we need a good lender. And there certainly are some people who try to forego it on their own, and they're going to just, buy the for sale by owner because they think that they are going to save money, right? But the seller believes that they're saving money. The buyer believes that they're saving money, and everybody can't be the one saving money. Only one person is going to be the one saving money in that instance. And often what I find and what I've heard as a pet peeve, and I'm going to ask you this, I'm going to put you on the spot, is that when a buyer enters into a contract with for sale by owner and they don't know what they're doing, they come to you and look at you as, what do I do next? What would a real estate agent do right here, and what do I do next?
Yeah.
how do you even handle that? Because I know for me, I couldn't tell somebody what the next all the steps are in the lending process. I just am like an overview of this is the next step that comes, but you're the one who's nitty gritty and in the trenches doing. Whereas I would think it's kind of vice versa. You don't know all the steps that I'm doing in order to represent my client at the highest level in the real estate side of things because you're focused on your lane and I'm focused on mine.
Yeah, there's a lot of legalities that go into purchasing a home. There's a lot of legalities in a contract. And I, as a lender, am not licensed to discuss any of that. So when a buyer comes to me and they are purchasing a for sale by owner and they're like, hey, Pam, I need help. And at that point, there's not really much that I can do other than let them know that they can go to an attorney and possibly pay to have an attorney draw up some sort of contract for them.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, what are they saving? Like, to your point,
right?
You're not saving anything at that point. So that for me is the biggest thing is when buyers don't realize the importance of understanding the legal aspect of it. And when you're going into purchasing a home, it's not just getting a loan and that's it. There's a lot of, again, you're the agent to be able to explain to them, when the negotiations, if something falls through, if something happens during the inspection period, if something happens during the appraisal or the title work, what do you do then?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you combat that with a seller if you as a buyer don't even know what to say or how to still move forward with it? And again, I as a lender cannot step in and help you to negotiate those terms at all. And then what does that leave you with when you've already paid for an appraisal fee? You maybe have to pay for title fees because title work's already been done and you have a seller that just ups and walks away, or you decide as a buyer to walk away because you're not happy with something, and then everyone's out money.
Yes.
And whereas if you would have had an agent the whole time, things could have been negotiated from a legal standpoint and done properly.
Yeah, well, and so some examples, real life examples of things that are happening right now. I just had a client that put a contract in on a property and I was able to pull the comps. So what do those comps look like and how much should we go in and make the offer at? And we're in the market right now, right? And sometimes it's a seller's market, sometimes it's a buyer's market where it was, hey, we need to put an offer in and it needs to be $30,000 less. This is where we're at with it, and of course, during the inspection period time, that's only to uncover things that we didn't know when we were making the offer, not to try to renegotiate things that we already got off the price. We did end up getting that accepted. It went through the process of, and this is an out of town buyer coming in. And there were several things that came up, and we knew that it was going to be like a whole entire flip project. And not only was I able to tell them where to go in at pricing to make the best offer to save them the most amount of money, right? If they were doing that on their own, they might have only went $10,000 less. That would have been $20,000 more that they were paying, right? So saving money right there. I was also able to coordinate getting contractors out there, pulling quotes, so many different things like that. And I always say, like, to every client I have, call me if you need someone. I got a guy for everything. And so we have those relationships. We know who's doing what at a high level in the business, who the really high level inspectors are, even because not all inspectors are created the same. And so I certainly have had some that have come where the buyer then looked at me, and it wasn't anyone I recommended, and said, oh my gosh, did I just pay $500 for the person to seriously tell me to break up the clean out and cover it with dirt? And so you don't quite know what you're getting, but anytime that you're working with a professional who is in that, like, we're cutting our teeth, we're helping lots of buyers, we're seeing who's good right now and what's happening in the market right now. To your point of having the right professionals in your corner on the lending side of things, I know for me personally, whenever a buyer comes to me and they want to use a lender that is an out of town lender, and I'll share this story. I had clients that were out of town. One of them was in the East Coast time zone. We were here in Central time zone, and the lender that they were using was in Mountain time zone. When I tell you that it was so chaotic, I am always, if that's who you want to use, I completely understand. However, there is value and merit to using someone here locally because one, we have the relationships with them already. Two, if they run into you in the store, they want to be able to smile, shake your hand, and not run from you. So they're going to answer their phone. They're going to, communicate with you at a high level. And then they know our market and the demands of it. And especially right now with our flood insurance and homeowners insurance doing what it's doing, on top of even how our people work. So I've had it before where a lender was an out of town lender, and they wanted to say that our guys who work oil fields 7 and 7, they were like, oh, they can't get a loan. They only work half the year. And we were like, no, that's like literally that's a job here, and it should be counted, and it could be counted. Back to the 3 different time zones, we got to a point in the transaction where their lender was not answering the phone. And I mean, we're talking about days. And you and I both know that for every day that we don't get something answered, information in, it can tack on 2 days for us to even close on that property. So time is of the essence. This lender was just not communicating, and we had no idea why. And my clients came to me and they said, hey, do you think that we can go with your person now? Well, we were already beyond that point. It would have hurt them. It would have hurt the process of buying and what it is that they were trying to accomplish. So no, we couldn't. And I had to have that conversation. Remember, we talked about that in the beginning, but this is the point now where we're too far into it. And they're like, well, can you call? And I said, I mean, I can try, but I'm nobody to that lender who's in a completely different time zone, because they're not getting my business again, because they're not doing a very good job with you right now. You have a better ability to get them on the phone because they might get more business from you, whereas they're never getting business from me because of how they showed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big deal. It's having the lend, and not even just on the lender's side, but for you as working with a lender, but for me also working with an agent, knowing that when I pick up the phone and say, hey, Kelli, we really need this document signed today in order for us to be able to move forward with whether it's underwriting or getting you to the closing table. Like, I need to know that you're going to answer your phone when I do. And again, so that is why we have that good relationship. So that way, whenever buyers come to me, I say, Kelli is someone that you should work with, and vice versa, is just knowing that someone's going to answer the phone in a timely manner and be able to respond to you in a certain amount of time to where things continue to move forward. Because again, at the end of the day, we're on a time frame. You have a contract with a date, and this is the date that we need to meet. And so if people aren't answering, then we're not closing on time, and then there's an issue.
Yes. And oh my goodness, I've certainly worked with people who the consumer brought in the lender, and then suddenly it was that the lender maybe just had a really big ego and tried to cut us out of the communications. So we were constantly chasing, trying to figure out what was going on. So to have a team working together, it's the synergy of it all. It is, making sure that those calendar invites are on there for your easy access, for you to remember the appointments that are happening, making sure for me and my team, and I know this is how you run your business as well, is that how much can we take off of your plate? How much can we tell you up front what it is that you need? Because I'd rather, while you're digging for the paperwork, that you get everything you possibly can right now of what it is that we need. That way we don't have to keep going back and asking, right? It would only be something that if it's absolutely necessary, and then walking you through what's the next thing to expect. And I know how you do business. You know how I do business. I have an admin team that communicates well back and forth. And so it's not always that you need me on the phone, because they can simply provide what is also necessary. And it allows me to continue to be in the field and helping the consumer through the inspections or negotiations or the other important parts of the deal.
Yeah, Kelli, I know one of the biggest compliments that I get at the end of the buying process with a buyer is, you made it so easy. But even more so, I think an even bigger compliment is when, like we have gotten many, many, many times, is you and Kelli made this process so easy, because then it lets me know that not only did I do my job, but we did our job together as a team. And for me, that's where it's at. It's because it's it's like a little big happy family, is that it's we all have to do our part. And if we can have every buyer get to the end of the at the closing table and say this was a breeze because of the two of you together, because it is two parts. There's the real estate side of it, the contract and the house side of it, and then there's the loan side of it. There are two really big pieces to the puzzle. And so maybe the lending side can be really easy, but your agent wasn't so great, so then that part wasn't, so it was kind of bumpy, or vice versa. The agent made things really great, but your lender wasn't, so then it still wasn't comfortable. So when you get to that closing table and the buyers have the biggest smile on their face and they're like, thank you so much, you guys together made this so easy, that's where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you're saying that, I had flashes of just how many clients that we have helped that have said that. And some of them that were so thankful. I mean, one of them popped into my mind, so thankful that you referred them to me. And she even told me along the way, she was like, we had bought before and we bought with a friend. And I learned more from you in the first day that we were together looking at properties than what I learned throughout the entire process and having even bought a home. It was like I had never bought a home before and experienced that. And then even from, the plans that I have tonight for clients that we represented in text messages that came through that said, oh my gosh, I knew you girls were the ones that my friend needed. So, yeah. If you are in the market to buy a home, just understand that if you're looking to save that time, money, and frustration, making sure that you have the right team in place is going to do that for you. And if you have any questions about the real estate process or even the lending and how much would you qualify for, what does that look like? Because it's also going into that it's not a one size fits all. There's so much that goes into what's right. Maybe it's a hybrid of a loan type. Maybe it's something new that isn't really widely talked about, that you as a professional have that information. Getting that approval and knowing that's almost like, to me, the first step. A lot of times people want to look at houses and go do all that, but it's not the first step. Just like if you're planning a vacation, you determine where it is that you're going to go, and then what are all the steps that you need in order to get there and make it successful. And talking with a lender, talking with Pam is absolutely the first step in doing that. Another thing I'm going to say to you, and I'm sure I've said it before, but I want to make sure that I say it here, is I've always had such a high level of respect for you, because when an underwriter comes back and says, no, because of this, before you even go in and talk to the consumer or the realtor or anything like that, there have been times you're fighting that. You're like, wait, no, because you go in and you read through, and there's things about their world that I don't know all of what there is to know, but I do know that is the one thing that has happened more than once, that there were turbulences that we didn't even have to know about or address, that you may have shared afterwards, that we were none the wiser. And so for that, I absolutely have always held you in such a high regard, and that's what I always brag to people about, is that you know your stuff and you'll go head to head with an underwriter for the client without them even having to know what's going on.
There's no reason to create alarm when I know that an underwriter is wrong, and that I can get it overturned before ever even saying anything. Now, at the same time, I won't let things go days on end either before stating that we may need to, get something corrected. But the underwriters are not always right. And if you don't have a lender who is well versed in guidelines and processes, sometimes an underwriter will have a condition and say that they need something, and it may not be available. It may not be something that the buyer can supply, or it may cause a loan to end up not going through or being denied, when in all actuality, the underwriter might have been wrong.
And I've had that happen before. We've had that where it didn't work out with one lender, and so swapped it over because they were like, sorry, can't do anything about it. Buyers were devastated. Send it over to you, and you're like, absolutely, we can do something about this because it's just this and this. And it could have been that it was coming from the same type of financing, but it's all in the professional that you use. How well versed are they in their position and what it is that they do? How willing are they to go and do the research and do the digging? Because the easy way is just like, oh, sorry, that's what they said. And the professional says, hold on. I almost feel like that's like, hold my beer. Wait 1 second.
Typical Louisiana.
That's right. That's right. So absolutely, if you are in the market looking for a home and want to know how much purchase power you have in today's market, give Pam a call, see what exactly it is, and see for yourself the level of professionalism. And if there's anything that I can do, I'm here to help guide and support you at the highest level always.